Good morning. I am Wamagazi from South Africa, and I'm the rapporteur for the built environment thematic area representing Group 3. These are the contributing members to the group discussions. We had South Africa, Angola, Mauritius, Seychelles, the ACEA Secretariat, as well as the African Union Commission. Next slide. So I'll just briefly talk through those two specific areas in terms of the challenges and the gaps that we identified as the group, as well as the key recommendations. So these challenges and gaps were cross-cutting between policy development, implementation, as well as a deeper dive in terms of the existing knowledge systems. So one of those gaps or challenges that we've identified was around the building codes within the built environment, in that in some countries, some of these codes, they are non-existent and some are outdated. And we further discussed the issue of policies and mandates that are fragmented, and some that are housed in ministries that are relevant to drive those mandates or the development and implementation of those related policies. The lack of political will and prioritization of this sector, and we also identified the issue of resistance to change as something that is common across many governments in Africa, where they are wanting to lean or keep to the linear practices and traditional models when it comes to this thematic area. We also identified the ineffectiveness of data collection and repository to inform policy development. There's also lack of effective or prioritized research and development in this sector, specifically in terms of chemicals, elimination of chemicals such as the persistent organic pollutants and other hazardous chemicals that hinder circularity within the built environment, as well as poor enforcement for those policies or regulatory frameworks that exist to ensure that there is compliance. Then to the recommendations, we would want to see governments promoting green, just say the next promoting public or green procurement strategies that we want the same governments to lead, to ensure that as part of their infrastructure development for government in infrastructure, such as the construction, refurbishment of buildings, as well as construction of roads and any other infrastructure related development projects that are for government, to ensure that they fully adopt sustainable and circular practices. In terms of regulations, also we want those as part of policy development or R&D to ensure that sustainable design and planning is fully embedded in those, in particular when it comes to water and energy efficiencies, to ensure that there is climate resilience against any climate-related shocks. And we also want to see the development of mandatory standards and certification within the sector to ensure that there is an increased demand for secondary or recycled material, to boost inter-regional trade, to reduce the use of raw materials which are mostly energy intensive, to harmonize the standards for import and export of these materials, to ensure that we fully conform to the ASO standards for these specific products. And we want the introduction of economic or fiscal instruments and or incentives for circular models and practices, And we believe that ministries such as your trade, industry and competition should promote this and to ensure that there is use of secondary or recycled material. In terms of research and development, we want the African countries to leverage the African indigenous and traditional knowledge systems. And lastly, in terms of financial support and mechanisms, we want to see these to ensure that there is sustainable implementation of all of these recommended standards, policies, and any practices. That would be my last slide, and thank you.